So before the season, I thought that Notre Dame was a playoff lock if they beat Texas A&M in week 1. I thought they would do that. And guess what? They're not a playoff lock. Shout out to the Huskies of Northern Illinois, who could be going to the Mountain West sometime soon. Just keep your eye on that. So Notre Dame has got one loss on the year. They have rebounded. Got to give the Irish credit. They lose to Northern Illinois. Then they beat Purdue 66-7, Miami, Ohio 28-3, a solid Louisville team 31-24, and Stanford 49-7. That's what it looks like if you're a good football team. Now, Notre Dame plays Georgia Tech this week. No. Oh, I tell you. Games at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That's in Atlanta, so why don't we call it a home game for good old Georgia Tech? At least it should be. But I imagine Notre Dame fans will travel really well. But Notre Dame plays both Army and Navy in addition to USC this year. We'll talk about USC at a different time. Army and Navy are a combined 11-0 right now. Do you understand that? Army and Navy this week, by the way, Army hosts 3-3 East Carolina. Watch out for the Pirates there. Navy hosts 3-3 Charlotte, who are yet to lose a conference game so far this season. Both teams are, in fact, greater than 2 touchdown favorites. So Vegas thinks they'll be okay. The college football gods, they might not agree. They might say, this is the week you go down. Last year, when Air Force was making a run in the Mountain West, it was at this exact time in the year when they started to falter. They started 6-0, ranked in the top 25. The buzz was flying around. Could they go 12-0? Could they go 11-1? Should they get into the playoff if X, Y, and Z? Well, Army and Navy are yet to lose a football game, and they've got impressive wins to boot. Navy, for instance, has knocked off Memphis. Army doesn't have a marquee win yet, but I tell you what, they are beating the living crap out of everyone. And why do I bring up these schools? Oh, by the way, like I said, Army and Navy will both have the opportunity to play Notre Dame. The fact that those games will have legitimate playoff juice if the midshipmen and the Knights continue winning, that is a requisite. But Notre Dame, when they go up against Army and Navy, could be playing for their playoff lives. When you look at Notre Dame's schedule, I am not certain. I am in no way certain that 10-2 gets Notre Dame into the playoff. It can. It warrants consideration. But Florida State, being an abomination of a football team and an incoherently bad offense, that's not helping their case. Navy and Army being better than expected, that does help. But USC is not likely to be ranked by the time you play them. And Louisville was ranked when you played them, but they could very well end up with 4 or 5 losses and be unranked by the end of the year. And the committee could look at Notre Dame's 12-game schedule and say to themselves, wait a minute, only one of these teams is currently ranked, and that's Texas A&M, and that's a road win. And that's the biggest feather in their cap, and that's arguably nullified by losing to Northern Illinois. So if Army and Navy continue winning, and by the time Navy plays Notre Dame on October 26th, two weeks from today, and, I'm sorry. I forgot what week it was. 1 week from Saturday. 1 week from Saturday. It is Notre Dame and Navy. And November 23rd, it is Notre Dame and Army. You could have the Irish fighting for their playoff lives in those games. Can you imagine? Everyone not in South Bend, Indiana, I imagine. They'll be pulling for the service academies there. Good old American pride, number 1, and number 2, plenty of people out there don't like Notre Dame. And what if Army and or Navy spoil? Because 9-3, guaranteed. Put it in Sharpie. I was thinking of the right metaphor there. But put it in Sharpie. 9-3 Notre Dame, not in the playoff. Not going to happen. So what if they win this week against Georgia Tech? Better not lose that football game, by the way. I do not think that's going to be easy. I've got Notre Dame winning 24-17. I think Brent Key and company in a de facto home game, I think they are going to make that incredibly tough. That is a physical, hard-nosed football team that, had the big splash early, has faded a little, but is quietly having a solid season in the ACC. Notre Dame cannot overlook Georgia Tech. They can't look ahead to Navy, which is a crazy sentence to even be able to say, but that's where we are in college football right now. So the tie between these schools is utterly fascinating. Completely and utterly fascinating. Navy, if they can win at home against Charlotte, not going to be an easy thing to do. Charlotte so far this year has beaten a couple of American teams in Rice and East Carolina, who are a little bit better than you think. And the two times that Charlotte has played a Power 4 team this year hasn't gone particularly well. At North Carolina, they lose by 18. At Indiana, they lose 52-14, though Indiana is obviously going to win the national championship because, well, we all saw that one coming. So if Navy is able to get by them at home in Annapolis, they could be undefeated going into a game next week with top 15 ranked, one loss Notre Dame. Are you kidding me? You talk about must-see television. And Navy, in that game wouldn't just have the opportunity to play spoiler. They could play resume booster. Because remember, Navy's already got a win against Memphis, who coming into this year was a trendy G5 pick to make the college football playoff. They weren't my G5 pick because I thought their schedule was a bit too hard. I didn't think Navy was one of those difficult games. I thought Florida State was going to be. Instead, I just, got those a little flipped around. How foolish of me when looking at preseason metrics and such. But I find the interplay between these teams to be completely fascinating. Legitimate playoff implications. So for the sake of that game next week, no disrespect to the Yellow Jackets and Brent Key. I like what he's doing there in Atlanta. The ACC should be put on notice with what Georgia Tech is doing and whether they are able to ascend, because there's a lot of untapped potential down there being in the Atlanta metro area. But I would love to see Navy win, and I would love to see Notre Dame win. And give me one loss Notre Dame against undefeated Navy next week. You talk about spice. But the playoff dynamic between those three teams with the Army-Navy game, maybe they meet before. If trends continue, they'd meet before their annual meeting in the American Conference Championship game. Long way to go. Still got half the regular season left. But I'm just throwing it out there. Don't overlook the service academies and their tie with Notre Dame. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.